On December 17th in the year 1862, Union General Ulysses S. Grant lashes out at Jewish cotton speculators, who he believed were the driving force behind the black market for cotton. Grant issued an order expelling all Jewish people from his military district, which encompassed parts of Tennessee, Mississippi, and Kentucky. At the time, Grant was trying to capture Vicksburg, Mississippi, the last major Confederate stronghold on the Mississippi River. Grant's army now effectively controlled much territory in western Tennessee, northern Mississippi, and parts of Kentucky and Arkansas. Grant had to deal with numerous speculators who followed his army in search of cotton. Cotton supplies were very short in the North, and these speculators could buy bales in the captured territories and sell it quickly for a good profit. In December of 1862, Grant's father came to visit him along with friends from Ohio. Grant soon realized that the friends, who were Jewish, were speculators hoping to gain access to captured cotton. Grant was furious and fired off his notorious order, number 11. Quote, "The Jews as a class violating every regulation of trade established by the Treasury Department and also department orders are hereby expelled from the department within 24 hours from receipt of this order," unquote. The fallout from his action was swift. Among 30 Jewish families expelled from Paducah, Kentucky, was Caesar Gaskell, who rallied support in Congress against the order. Shortly after the uproar, President Abraham Lincoln ordered Grant to rescind the order. Grant later admitted to his wife that the criticism of his hasty action was well-deserved. As Julia Grant put it, the general had, quote, "no right to make an order against any special sect," unquote. It was December 17th in the year 1903, near Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Orville and Wilbur Wright make the first successful flight in history of a self-propelled, heavier-than-air aircraft. Orville piloted the gasoline-powered, propeller-driven biplane, which stayed aloft for 12 seconds and covered 120 feet on its inaugural flight. Orville and Wilbur Wright grew up in Dayton, Ohio, and developed an interest in aviation after learning of the glider flights of the German engineer Otto Lilienthal in the 1890s. Unlike their older brothers, Orville and Wilbur did not attend college, but they possessed extraordinary technical ability and a sophisticated approach to solving problems in mechanical design. They built printing presses and in 1892 opened a bicycle sales and repair shop. Soon they were building their own bicycles, and this experience, combined with profits from their various businesses, allowed them to pursue actively the dream of building the world's first airplane. After exhaustively researching other engineers' efforts to build a heavier-than-air controlled aircraft, the Wright brothers wrote the U.S. Weather Bureau inquiring about a suitable place to conduct a glider test. They settled on Kitty Hawk, an isolated village on North Carolina's Outer Banks, which offered steady winds and sand dunes from which to glide and land softly. Their first glider, tested in 1900, performed poorly, but a new design tested in 1901 was more successful. Later that year, they built a wind tunnel, where they tested nearly 200 wings and airframes of different shapes and designs. The brothers' systematic experimentations paid off. They flew hundreds of successful flights in their 1902 glider at Kill Devil's Hills near Kitty Hawk. Their biplane glider featured a steering system based on a movable rudder that solved the problem of controlled flight. They were now ready for powered flight. In Dayton, they designed a 12-horsepower internal combustion engine with the assistance of machinist Charles Taylor and built a new aircraft to house it. They transported their aircraft in pieces to Kitty Hawk in the autumn of 1903, assembled it, made a few further tests, and on December 14th, Orville made the first attempt at powered flight. The modern aviation age was born. 3 more tests were made that day, with Wilbur and Orville alternately flying the airplane. Wilbur flew the last flight, covering 852 feet in 59 seconds. During the next few years, the Wright brothers further developed their airplanes, but kept a low profile about their successes in order to secure patents and contracts for their flying machines. By 1905, their aircraft could perform complex maneuvers and remain aloft for up to 39 minutes at a time. In 1908, they traveled to France and made their first public flights, arousing widespread public excitement. In 1909, the U.S. Army's Signal Corps purchased a specially constructed plane, and the brothers founded the Wright Company to build and market their aircraft. Wilbur Wright continued his eternity of typhoid fever in 1912. Orville Wright continued his eternity in 1948. It was December 17th in the year 1963 that one of the first major pieces of environmental legislation in the U.S. became law. The Clean Air Act empowered the federal and state agencies to research and regulate air pollution, marking a major expansion of government efforts to fight back against the damage being done to the climate. A 1955 law, the Air Pollution Control Act, had allocated $15 million to the study of air pollution across the country. As the federal government and the states conducted this research, it became clear that further legislation would be needed. After passing through Congress relatively swiftly, a stronger act was signed into law on December 17th in 1963 by President Lyndon B. Johnson, our nation's 36th president, who had been in power for less than a month following the assassination of John F. Kennedy. The Landmark Act and its subsequent amendments, updates, were passed in 1967, 1970, 1977, and 1990, comprised some of the most comprehensive air quality legislation in the world. Shortly after its creation in 1970, the EPA began using its powers under the CAA to set quality standards for areas affected by air pollution, and it has subsequently been invoked to ban specific harmful chemicals and tackle specific environmental problems such as acid rains or the chlorofluorocarbons, or CFCs, which directly contributed to the hole in the ozone layer. Though there is a very long way to go, national emissions dropped 63% between 1980 and 2015, despite overall economic growth and an increase in the number of miles driven over that time, thanks largely to the provisions of the Clean Air Act and its successors.